$8, the man behind the counter said. That's what I can do. It was June of 1965, and the pawn shop on Cahuenga Boulevard in Hollywood smelled of gun oil and old felt, and the particular dust of things that came in under pressure and stayed. A Navy cross lay on the glass. The man across the counter was 31 years old, 1st Marine Division, 2 tours. And he was standing the way a man stands when he has run out of options, but has not yet run out of pride. His name was Roy Calvert. He was looking at the wall behind the counterman's shoulder, not at the metal. At the far end of the counter, a man in a canvas jacket and a tan Stetson was looking at a tray of pocket watches. He was not looking at the pocket watches. Here is the story. Roy Calvert had come home from his second tour in March of 1964 through Camp Pendleton on a Wednesday morning that was cold for March and quiet in the particular way of military installations in the middle of the week when no one is arriving or departing with ceremony. He had taken a Greyhound to Los Angeles because that was where Donna was, in a 1-bedroom apartment on Fountain Avenue that her sister had helped her find when Roy shipped out the second time. He had been a rifleman. First tour, the Mekong Delta, 1961 into 1962, before most people knew where the Mekong was. Second tour, Quang Nam Province, 1963 into 1964, which was when people were beginning to understand that what was happening there was a longer story than anyone had been told at the start. The Navy Cross had come from an action in Quang Nam in October of 1963, a rice paddy outside Dien Bon, where Roy's squad had taken contact from 3 sides, and Roy had moved twice through open ground to pull 2 men out of the kill zone while the contact was still active. The citation used the phrase conspicuous gallantry and described the action with the compressed, passive voice restraint of military writing that says everything with nothing. Roy had put the medal in a box in the closet when he came home and had not taken it out since, because it was a private thing that belonged to a private place, and the closet was where it belonged. He had found work at a machine shop in Culver City in April of 1964, running a lathe. When Donna told him in November that she was pregnant, he worked an extra Saturday shift that week and said nothing to anyone, because there was nothing to say except that he was glad. In February of 1965, the machine shop reduced its workforce by 6 positions. Roy was in the last 3 hired, which made him the first 3 let go. In May, he picked up 3 weeks of framing work on a residential site in Van Nuys that ended when the site was suspended for a permit dispute. The electric bill had been unpaid since the end of May. He had not told Donna about the medal. He had taken it from the closet on a Tuesday morning while she was at her sister's and put it in his jacket pocket. He had $4 in his wallet and a receipt from the electric company 3 weeks past due in his shirt pocket. And a pawn shop on Cahuenga Boulevard was a place where a man could take something he owned and convert it to something the month required. Morris Hecht had looked at the medal for a long time before he said the number. $8. He said it the way he said all his numbers, not apologetically, not dismissively, but with the particular evenness of a man who has decided that the most merciful thing he can offer is certainty. Roy had not said anything yet. At the far end of the counter, the man in the canvas jacket had put the pocket watch tray down. If you've ever known a man who would sell the one thing he should never have to sell before he would ask for help, drop a comment below. Drop your state. This one goes out to every one of them. He moved along the counter slowly, the way a large man moves in a small space when he is not in a hurry and does not need to be. He stopped beside Roy. He looked at the medal on the glass. He looked at it for a moment. He did not look at Roy yet. Then, he picked it up. He turned it over. He read the back. He set it down carefully. The way you set down something that has weight you can't see from the outside. He looked at Morris Hecht. "What's the ask?" he said. Morris said the gentleman was selling, not asking. "I'm buying," the man said. "What's the ask?" Morris said he had offered $8, and that was his standard rate for decorations. The man looked at the metal. He was quiet for a moment. $800, he said. Morris looked at him. Roy looked at him. $800, the man said again. Same register. Same pace. Morris started to say something about valuation and military surplus. The man looked at him without expression. "You'll take 800. Morris Hecht was quiet. He was a practical man. He had been in this business 19 years because he was a practical man. He counted the bills when the man put them on the glass. He did not say anything else. The man picked up the metal and turned to Roy. Roy Calvert does not move. He is standing the way he stood in the kill zone outside Dien Bon, very still, very present, with the look of a man processing something his training has not prepared him for. The man held the metal out. "This doesn't belong in a case," he said. "I've got no use for it. But I need a receipt that says I paid $800 for a Navy Cross awarded to a 1st Marine in Quang Nam Province in October of 1963. I'm working on a picture. The studio needs documentation for the prop budget. You just solved a problem I've had since Tuesday." Roy looked at the metal. He looked at the man. "That's not why," Roy said. The man said nothing for a moment. "No," he said, "it isn't. But the receipt is real, and the money is real, and that metal belongs in your house, not in this case." He put it in Roy's hand and closed Roy's fingers around it. Roy's jaw moved once. Nothing came out. The man picked up his hat. He put it on. He looked at Morris Hecht. "Write the receipt," he said. He went to the door. He had his hand on it when Roy said the name, the one the woman at the far end of the counter had said under her breath when the man first walked in, that Roy had registered without registering. The man did not turn around. He pushed the door open and went out into the June afternoon on Cahuenga Boulevard, and did not look back. Morris wrote the receipt without being asked twice. He passed Roy's copy across the glass without looking up. Roy stood at the counter with the metal in one hand and the receipt in the other for a long time after the door had closed. Roy Calvert paid the electric bill that afternoon. He paid the July rent the following week when he found 3 days of work at a loading dock in Inglewood. He found a permanent position in August, machine shop work, Hawthorne, better rate than Culver City, and held it for 11 years. His daughter Linda was born in September of 1965. He was in the waiting room at Cedars of Lebanon when she came, and he had the medal in his jacket pocket because he had not yet found a place in the apartment that felt like the right place for it, and having it in his pocket that night felt like the right thing without his being able to say exactly why. He found the right place eventually, a small shadow box, the kind a hardware store sells for certificates and citations. He mounted the medal and the citation together, the Navy Cross and the compressed, passive voice paragraph that said everything with nothing about what had happened in a rice paddy outside Dien Bon in October of 1963. He hung it in the hallway of the apartment on Fountain Avenue, and when they moved to a house in Torrance in 1971, he hung it in the same hallway position in the new house, because it belonged in the part of the house you walk past every day without stopping, not in a room where you have to decide to look at it. He showed it to Linda once, when she was 9. He told her what it was and what it was for, and then they walked past it, and he did not discuss it again. Because it was a private thing that belonged to a private place, and he had found the place. Linda Calvert is a registered nurse at a hospital in Long Beach. She has been a nurse for 31 years. She told Roy's story to her own son, Marcus, when he was 17, and asking the kind of questions 17-year-old boys ask about service and sacrifice, and whether either of those things still means what they used to mean. Marcus Calvert enlisted in 2003. He served 2 tours with the 3rd Marine Division, Anbar Province, 2004 and 2006. He came home both times. He visited his grandfather in Torrance in the fall of 2006, in the last year of Roy's life, and they sat in the kitchen for 3 hours, and Roy told him things he had not told anyone, and Marcus listened the way you listen when you understand that the time for the telling is not going to last much longer. In 2007, 6 months after Roy died, Marcus was at a pawn shop in Oceanside, near Camp Pendleton, for reasons that had nothing to do with what happened next. The man at the counter was selling a silver star. Marcus did not know the man. He asked what the shop was offering. He paid what the shop was offering, and then he paid more, and he handed the medal back to a man he had never met, and said only that it belonged with him, not on a shelf. He did not say anything else. He did not explain himself. Roy Calvert died in January of 2007 at 73 years old in the house in Torrance on a Tuesday morning. Linda was there. The shadow box is in Marcus's house now, in the hallway, in the same position Roy always put it. The part of the house you walk past every day. The medal and the citation inside it. The Navy Cross against the blue wool backing. The paragraph that says everything with nothing. The morning light comes through the east window at the end of the hall and reaches the glass of the shadow box for about 30 minutes after sunrise. And in that light the cross is very clear against the blue. And then the sun moves, and the hallway goes back to what it is the rest of the day, and the cross stays where Roy Calvert put it, in the place that belongs to private things. John Wayne never told anyone, not the studio, not the prop department that never received a receipt for a Navy Cross, not his director, not his co-stars, not in any interview he gave in the 40 years of his career that remained. Not in any letter that anyone has ever found. He drove back to the studio that afternoon and said he had been running an errand and was sorry about the time. Nobody asked about the errand. That was the complete account. There is a particular kind of man who walks into a pawn shop for pocket watches and cannot walk back out past a Navy Cross on the glass without stopping. Most people in that shop that afternoon looked at the counter and did not stop. It takes a man who understands the weight of what the passive voice paragraph is trying not to say, conspicuous gallantry, to know that what is on the counter is not a decoration. It is a man's account of himself, and an $8 price on it is an accounting that cannot stand. Not a performance. Just one man setting the number right. If this story reached you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. There are more stories like this one, and every one of them deserves to be told. And unfortunately, they don't make men like John Wayne anymore.